Mm-hmm. Alex, hi. So let me. So now you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can indeed.
Can you see me?
Super.
Did you watch the match yesterday?
I did.
Like what? That's football. Like Liverpool had 80% possession.
Yeah, I know. What can you do? We scored goals. Oh, amazing.
And Frank Lampard is out.
Oh, I didn't hear. He's
Yeah.
fired, huh? Yeah. Surprise. Chelsea gave him a little longer time than probably they would have given anyone else, maybe. I don't know.
That's the European way. Like 3 months. That's it. Okay. Shall I try to share my screen?
Please.
Yes. Okay. 1 second. I need to start the presentation first. Okay. Where is the presentation? In front of me the whole day. F5.
We have 5 minutes.
Yeah. And let's see.
Some people are quite eager to attend. I had people in the waiting room 5, 7, 8 minutes before.
The last workshops we had with Chris, it was Nimbus only. Enable, please, this part, or make me co-host, maybe.
Yeah. All right.
Should be okay now.
There we go.
And this share. Oh man, now I cannot see me.
You don't see yourself?
No, I can see myself, but 1 second, I know how to do that. Right, beyond IoT, no. I'm sharing. But I cannot see participants and these things, which might be better actually. 1 second.
There's an icon up in the top right. View. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Derek.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, there it is.
I'm working now. Wasn't working earlier.
No bother. No worries.
I couldn't get the background on, Jeremy, so I just left it.
Yeah. No worries. Okay.
And chat.
So, Alex, I suppose you'll probably take the lead and just run through the presentation, and I'll jump in wherever needs be.
Yes.
All right?
Yes. And it's a free discussion, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
To say our opinion. Yeah. Yes. And someone else connecting to what you don't.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, we have 4 minutes more before we start.
That's curious. I didn't admit this chap, but he is anyway. So okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I so far so good.
How's everything else going? Is it no tech issues?
No, everything under control so far.
That's great.
Yeah. And 1,036 attendees.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've been listening to various talks this morning. Actually, they're very good. Yeah. So I have it on. I have them on in the background.
Yes.
I have 2 screens.
I am in Nimbus today, so I have 3 screens.
Ah, yay.
Are you at your regular desk, Alex, or?
Yes, alone.
Home advantage then. Perfect. Good.
And someone thought that the heating, is not important today.
Oh, no way. It's not on? Wow. So, Alex, when the polls, so do you just want to prompt me, maybe?
Jay, no, when you see the questions, just open the poll. Derek, what we thought is that we let people vote, actually.
Yeah.
And see if they agree with us or not.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. 1 second.
I'll just follow your lead and jump in as needs be.
Yes. Inbox. 1 second. Zoom.
Put this on. Put the phones on silent. Here we go.
Alex, is your surname Vakaludis or Vakalidis?
Yes. No, the first one.
Ludis. Okay.
Typical long Greek name.
No worries.
Are we 6.3? Jerry, the workshop. 5.3. Okay. And Jerry, we're recording the meeting?
Yes.
Or not? Okay.
Yeah, it's recording.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Could be just us.
Yes, we'll see.
Nope. There's Gary.
So. Are we ready to start or?
1 minute maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay. Right. Okay, shall we start, Jerry? Yeah.
Yes.
And more people will join, I suppose.
Yeah. All right, then. So, hello and welcome to Beyond IoT 4.0 Workshop Series 5.3. My name is Jeremy Staunton of Nimbus Research Center at NTU, and I will be moderating this session. This workshop is called Beyond Digital Transformation and will be presented by Alex Vakaludis of Nimbus Research Center at NTU and Derek O'Herlihy of Cool Harbour. The format of the workshop will be interactive, where audience participation is encouraged. Please take part throughout the workshop by typing your questions into the chat area or asking your question directly. Please make sure your microphone is turned on if you want to ask directly. I will ask the audience members to unmute. I don't think you're able to unmute at the moment. Please note that this workshop will be recorded. So now I'm pleased to welcome our speakers today, and I'll hand over to Alex to begin our workshop.
Thanks. I suppose you can all see my screen, so I'll move to the next slide. What's the format of the workshop, first of all? For me, a short overview of the technologies that are related to Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. And the main thing is that we have 5, I suppose, nice, interesting questions that we can discuss with Derek and anyone else who wants to also contribute in the discussion. Now, a few things about us. Derek, you want to talk about yourself, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I'm basically a food scientist from way back when. having graduated from CIT back in '91. But really, since then, I've been involved in the food and beverage industry for many years in manufacturing. And throughout that time, we can see various opportunities for bringing technology and digital transformation into even just the smallest of jobs to make them more efficient. And now, in the last few years, I work with a partner called Brian English, and we formed Cool Harbour 3 years ago, and we now provide bespoke software solutions to various industries, but primarily into improving workflow processes and also some edtech innovation as well. So we're trying to take processes that are, let's say, quite manual at the moment and transform those. So we're working on a number of projects on those and working with Nimbus as well.
And I'm working in Nimbus for the last 8 years now. In Cork, previously I worked also in London, in Italy, in Greece as well. What doing now in Nimbus is leading the team of software and enterprise solutions. We work with the industry to create proof of concepts, to create prototypes, to create live systems. Even we have a few based on applied research. So not research that it's blue sky for the sake of it, but research that can be gone into become a product, become a service. So the idea is first to have a small overview of the technologies that are involved in digital transformation and why do we have that, just to put the foundation, the context of the questions we're going to discuss later. Now, to talk about just digital transformation could take easily a week. It's not a small issue. We have whole conferences, events on digital transformation. So to get into the entirety of this subject in 5-10 minutes is, just not possible. So a few technologies that are of interest. First of all, industrial IoT, which means that to have not only sensors installed in industrial setting, but to be able to collect these values and use them effectively. Use them to understand what's going on in a factory and make informed decisions. And also establish two-way communication. So if we want to modify a sensor to say, give me values every second instead of every 10 seconds, to be able to do so, or configure it, or change any security credentials, for example. Now, one of the divas, let's say, around digital transformation is AI and machine learning, and more specifically, predictive analytics. Predictive maintenance, I suppose, is one of the hottest topics from technology point of view. So many people in the world are working on this problem. How can we tell when a machine will break down, and even further, why it will break down? Also, predictive analytics used to predict the efficiency, the quality. Anomaly detection, do we have any shifts that perform better than the others, for example? And of course, optimize the schedule. Like when should we actually produce product X, product 1 or product 2, depending on the situation right now in the factory. All these, the industrial IoT, the applications of AI require loads of data, require tremendous processing power sometimes. So the solutions to that is to involve also the cloud. And why involve the cloud? Not only because you don't need to have the computing infrastructure on premises, but also we are living in the age of big data. So we don't have to store these on site as well. And I found it last few days, around 10 billion are predicted to be spent on industrial cloud technologies. So it's a hot topic, and of course it's needed to support the digital transformation. An interesting area also is augmented virtual reality. What we want there to use devices, could be AR glasses, could be the tablet, so as we can project more information to what the person is looking at, the employee, and we can view that in two ways. The academic one, which is more poetic, I would say, bridge the gap between the digital and physical worlds, or the actual down-to-earth way. What we want is improve decision making, speed up assembly process by providing more information. Now, up to now, the last three slides were around technologies. But digital transformation, and that's everybody admits that it's not only around technology, it's around changing the mental model, changing the way we approach production, the way things are happening in the workplace. And one interesting statistic, this comes from the OECD, is that 65% of children, the jobs they're gonna do, they're not yet, they don't exist. I can see that because I have a 15-year-old daughter, and of course discussing where to go to university, but what exactly she's going to do after that, is there her job roles existing, or we're talking something that will appear in the future. Also, in order to facilitate the factories of the future, the workplace of the future, it's not only being good with the technology, but also have soft skills, cognitive abilities, system skills, and problem solving. And again, other not technical skills like collaboration, communication, and adaptability. And of course, we are 21 years after year 2000. ICT skills is it's a given that it's obviously everybody needs to have them. You cannot have a illiterate from an ICT point of view. My point here is that when we approach digital transformation, it's not only technology. Okay. Soft skills are required. Okay. And as I said, it's just a brief overview. So more technologies are involved in digital transformation. 3D printers, which are becoming cheaper and faster and easier to use. Robotics, obviously, and we're not talking about robots that move as they do in car manufacturing for the last 50 years, but also autonomous vehicles that can perform, and they are intelligent, they collaborate with each other. And last but not least, cybersecurity. People who work in one area of technology, and in Nimbus we work a lot with IoT. Our concern is to establish a good device, a device that can produce values and send them to a gateway. So we disregard the security, not disregard, it's not our main priority, but as IoT gets applied more and more and more, we can see that we have security issues, and actually 80% of security attacks are onto IoT devices because the developers haven't thought of security as a top priority. Now, there are different classifications on how the digital transformation has been implemented in the industry. And as I said, different classifications. I've just found one which has 4 stages. One is absence, little or zero industry 4.0. And you may say, well, is this happening? Of course it's happening. It's happening a lot. Even established, well-known companies still use notepads, still use Excel to record factory floor values. Then we have an existence of Industry 4.0, which happens only on a pilot level, just to see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Apart from that, we have what we call survival. So IoT or other technologies already implemented, and they are used and they improve, they produce knowledge. Factory managers can see they can easily get the real data around their KPIs, but the real goal is maturity. all these to have matured, and there is support around that. It's not only in a trial, in a pilot basis, and this has led to more and more and more collaborations. What we have seen in Nimbus working with industrial partners is that there is some reluctance, especially if some companies are in the early stages of digital transformation, in the absence or existence states. As soon as they see the benefits, they start asking for more. Their appetite opens, so this support and eagerness to collaborate matures more. Now, this, as I said, it was a short presentation, a short overview, just to lay the ground for the discussions we're going to do. And we have 5 different questions to discuss with Derek and anyone else who wants to participate, of course. And for each one, there's going to be a poll in the on the Zoom application. So if you want to vote, of course, it's anonymous. Yeah, please let us answer the question better. The first question is, do we need, in order to accelerate this digital transformation, which one is the better approach, to build end-to-end solutions in a factory, or concentrate on a specific areas that are going to be maturing first? So what I'm saying is that the options are, should we concentrate on overall and create the smart factory, maybe not to as a first level, or vice versa, concentrate on specific areas and create specific smart services, maybe on an area of a factory, or change the operations. One nice sentence I've heard, and to be honest, I believe it, is that in many factories, in many workplaces, we use 21st century machinery, 21st century technology, but still 19th century processes. We still have the traditional assembly line, and yeah, things move as they get assembled. Or option C is focus first on the soft digital transformation, create the extra skills needed by employees. Okay, so Derek, your opinion on that?
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. So just from my experience, folks, and I've been involved in kind of going back maybe more than 20 years now. Started off with traditional classroom training, which we eventually brought into online e-learning. And it's a real kind of a fundamental and basic change. But it's still interesting to see how many companies still don't do that, and they're still focused on the classroom. But from my perspective, and then working with, first of all, in my own experience, and then working with other companies, I think start with something small, like a product or a service, to basically justify the case, to sell it into management and senior management, people who are going to fund it. And I think to prove the argument, because as we get on to further on questions later on, we'll see that what's preventing this from taking place or moving forward. I think part of it is down to the fact that it costs a lot of money, and I think you've got to choose something, choose a smart product, choose a service, and see how you can enhance that using the digital transformation process, what works for you. And then should you get that success, you build that out and you say, okay, now I take that and I'm going to have more operations, but also we obviously need the skills. So if people are already in the job or on the job, we've got to develop those skills. And obviously bringing it back then to universities, we've got to develop the skills such that when people are coming into those jobs, they already have them. That's maybe where some of the shortfall may be. But certainly, even with those skills, and if people are on the job, again, what we find is that you have people who are adopters and they like to take on technology and they love going with it and they'll take it on. Then you have people, no matter what it is, they'll hate it, so they just don't like technology at all and say, oh, this it's going to take my job. I'm not going to get involved in this. I don't like it. And then you'll have people who are sitting on the fence. And there may be the folks that you'd say, well, if I can show you how this makes your job better, and how it enhances your job, it's not going to replace your job, then this will, bring those people who are on the fence to a place where it's a plus. And then when you have that cohort or that group of people who are, singing the praises of the technology, then you can move it on to broader operations, broader factory, but always ensuring that you know what your end goal is. And that's probably one of the next questions, which I want to preempt that. But I think if you start small, sell the success and show the success of that, and then you can broaden it out to operations, skills, and factory. That's
Yes.
my thought.
Yes. Thanks. And let's see what the poll says. If you can, guys, see the poll. Well, agree with you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll share the results for everyone to see it. I hope you can see them. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. So to move to the second question now, and building on the first one, as you said, Derek, it's build services first. So, which technology is more mature? Which one is the one that could have immediate impact? And the options here are machine learning, building on artificial intelligence. There is a lot of hype maybe there on how much it can do, but it's not a trend. It's something will stay with humanity forever, I suppose. Or AR, VR, or as we discussed, industrial IoT, or is it robotics, or is it another technology? Like which one is the ones to take it now and use it to demonstrate the production of new services?
Yeah. Again, if I'm just again on our experience, a couple of years ago, one of the things that we perform is some consulting audits, and we go into locations all over the globe just to look at how their processes are and to audit those processes. And one of the things we wanted to do was to shift to some virtual audits. And really, people said, no, we don't want that. It's not possible, it's not feasible. And that was probably 18 months ago. And as we know, things have dramatically changed. And now what we are finding is this is the only way to do these audits, is that because we can't travel or we can't be on site or we're not allowed on site, then the virtual way of performing this audit is the way to do it for us. But in addition to that, so we're utilizing RealWear headgear to perform audits at the moment. And without being there, I would say it's kind of the next best thing. It's not perfect because people like to ask questions and see you and interact with you, just like, we can't be there for the Beyond IoT in person. But with this, it is actually, it's like they're my eyes. I can see what they're seeing. They walk around, I can see what's going on. But we want to now take it to another level. So we're doing the audits currently. We now want to add the augmented piece where we want to do the skills enhancement. Back to our earlier slide, we want to build on that and have people train on those and be able to see, okay, if you look at this piece of equipment, it's been proven as well that it can improve training times and efficiencies by more than 30%. And also being involved in this kind of technology allows you to retain it more because you're involved in it more. So 6 months later, versus a traditional classroom, you will retain 90% more information as if you've done it virtually or using a headset than if you were just sitting down listening to somebody, So that is because you've experienced it. So again, in our experience and in my experience, I think the AR, VR is probably more realistic right now, whereas robotics and the others there's a huge cost to entry. Whereas with a headset, it can be, I will say, relatively cheap. It's still a few €1,000, but versus robotics, you have to put in such a huge business case to make sure you're getting the savings on the other end, that this could be the cheapest point of entry to get in and show the benefit of a technology like this.
Interestingly, again, the poll agrees with you, and I'll share the results. Yeah, again. Now, the interesting thing out of the way this poll showed is that nobody thought AI and ML, and it's amazing because artificial intelligence promises to change radically the world, not only on the industry, in every aspect of our life. But my opinion is that it's over promising, and we are not there yet to have a big impact. For example, as I said, a lot of interest exists around predictive maintenance, and how can a machine tells us how can machine learning tells us
Mhm.
that yeah,
It's
you
kind
should
of, I
fix this. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think Alex, kind of on the machine learning and AI, we have an ed tech product that we want to kind of build that into it
Yeah,
eventually for online assessment and gathering data and analyzing the data, but also to be able to answer text-based questions such that we can score them without an assessor. But then we need to make that intelligent, and it's really tricky to do it, but also it's hugely costly, and it takes so much time. It's to kind of see, well, if we don't do that, do we still get the benefit by doing something slightly different and something slightly cheaper, but we can get it out there and people will still see huge benefit in it, and maybe add this on over time. And maybe it's just the understanding of that and what it actually is versus the others might be the difficulty there as well.
okay. The next slide. Oh, sorry, I'll share the results first of all. Okay, on that, and I'll move to the next slide if I can. This is the same question asked by Deloitte, but before COVID. So it's not in 2020. And you can see that we don't agree with them, as personally, because this is a survey done, and people said that the most promising technologies are Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. So I wonder what was the impact of COVID? Did,
Mm.
as you said, Derek, you can do the virtual assessment now with the headset. So does COVID change things? Did COVID change things?
I think absolutely it has changed things. There's no doubt in my mind, and that things that were not acceptable, or, I mean, the simple fact of even working from home. There are so many companies that if you wanted to do that 12 months ago, just 12 months ago, if you say it's not possible, we can't allow you to do that, we need you on site, you need to be able to answer the phone with respect to customers or whatever it is. Now it's a norm because it had to be. So people had to think differently about all their processes and everything. So I think that has definitely changed things. But one thing that I'm finding, I suppose, is that sometimes this can be what would you wish would be the best thing, but what in a real world scenario. And I always give for augmented reality, I'm interested in seeing that um, I don't want to see a little character running across a desk and running up the computer. I want to see how I can apply that in industry. Maybe that's, not the fun person in me at all, but I want to see how it works because, from my perspective, it's a business that we need to show people how it can be beneficial to their business. So maybe the aspiration might be Internet of Things or artificial intelligence, but the real world of things might be slightly different.
Yeah, there is a comment from Phoebe that sensors are 40% and IoT 72%. Phoebe, I agree with you, or not agree. Maybe so either, which is most probably what you say, is that people did not understand, they don't have a deep understanding, or they have a very deep understanding and can understand the difference between sensors and Internet of Things. That it's not only the sensors, or they mean that can we have sensors that we don't have yet, while Internet of Things sensors on temperature, of vibration, on movement, we have them. Do we need more sensors? I mean,
Mm.
that we don't have right now. But yeah, that's the before COVID situation, and maybe we have yeah, to repeat it to see how COVID actually was, how much of a disruption did it cause. Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, and also yeah, blockchain. I also think it was a big hype as well
Hmm.
because it promised a lot of things, but all these things could be done without a blockchain or cannot be done yet.
Yeah. I think one observation from my perspective as well, and maybe others agree or not, is big data and analytics. Again, there was a lot of talk about that, and there has been for the last number of years. What I find, even with the solutions that we put in place, that people are just, they'll use the solutions to improve the process or whatever it might be, but they actually don't use the data at all. They just don't use it. So there's potential to use it to make things better, but it's just not done, you know. So I
Okay.
think part of it is obviously changing the process and improving the process and the process flow and digitizing things, but you need to understand how that makes things better for you. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? Why invest in all the money if you're not analyzing what you have done and building on that, or improving efficiencies, or reducing cost, or creating jobs, or whatever it might be? Again, just my experience on that. That's
Okay, that causes me to ask another extra question then, and why we don't use the data. And another example outside industry is that for professional athletes, they collect loads and loads of data. And the one survey found out they use 6% of all that data. They collect around the professional athletes. So the question is, are we collecting the wrong data,
that, well,
or
that's
we
it. That's
don't
right.
know?
That's right, Alex. It's a,
Yeah.
are we collecting the correct data? So if you're only using 6%, then obviously you need to look at, why are we collecting the other 94%? What
Yeah.
are we doing with it? If we're not doing anything, actually that's not what we need. We need something else, maybe, you know. So I think it's and not only analyzing the data, but looking at it and seeing that, okay, are we getting the correct data as well? Absolutely.
Yeah,
But maybe the first time out you get a lot, and then you refine.
or we don't have the technology around AI to analyze the data or yet.
No, that's true. That
Yeah.
that is true. And you're right, Phoebe. Again, there the challenge may be people analyzing the data may not understand the questions that need the answers.
Yes.
Absolutely. But I think at least if you can, you need to figure out, then why are you putting it in there in the first place? You know, so why are you putting these things in? Is it just to save money? And are you actually doing that? Are you trying to make better efficiencies? Are you actually doing that? So, but in some cases, they're just putting processes in and not even analyzing it, just letting it go and saying, but when they could take the opportunity and say, well, we've now seen that by doing this, 50% of our quality issues are eliminated, you know, and we can see that, or it's this particular issue at least. Now we can focus on that. Now we can, if we reduce that, we can then go to the next thing and the next thing after that.
Okay. Okay. Next questions to move on is, okay, around training and upskilling. When training and upskilling should be applied, let's say inside a factory,
Hmm.
before, during planning to get any uh, changes, or while these are applied,
Hmm.
or after everything is in place. Now, someone might say as early as possible, but what is the idea around this question? Technology changes constantly. So if we say that we train and upskill people very early, then by the time we apply a new technology, their training could be, yeah, obsolete, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one, because again, during planning and design is ideal, shall we say. But
Yeah.
one of the important things about training is a training needs analysis. And you've got to understand, why are we doing the training? Is it the right training? You know, so and a lot of times people say, well, I trained 1,000 people this month. And the question would be, well, so what? You know, why? What did they need to be trained? Was there an issue? Was there a pinch point? Was there a problem? And that's where training is done. Of course, there's compliance, and but I think if you can do it while the changes are being applied, it allows people to learn on the job, and those people can be your experts who can then train the others while when it's in place. So I think it's a combination of all three. But I think if you're too early, you may not get everything, because you may not understand the nuances of the technology, or particularly, whereas the huge benefit is the issues that arise around the technology. So it's all great when things are going well and you plug it in and it plays and you say, okay, plug that in, off you go. But what if something happens and you don't know what's happening? That's where the benefit of experts lies, because they can see, okay, when you do this, you now need to click Control Alt Delete, for example, and that will bring up the screen. So something, you know, as mindless as that, but it's having those skills to know where to find a little thing, and that's where the experts kind of find those as the technological changes are being applied, which they can then transfer afterwards. So but no
Right.
matter what, though, training should be done for the right reason is the first thing, but it should certainly be done.
Yes, and actually, what you said, Derek, the audience agree unanimously. Okay, share results. Sorry. Yes,
That's
and
cool.
sorry. Move on to the next question. Now, digital transformation is happening slowly, and there are different models on how to progress, and as we said, go through the different layers. But why it's not being adapted, and all these 5 options have been identified as reasons. It takes it takes time to be proven, or it's actually costs a lot of money, so we need to make the business case on that. Or, as we have been discussing, we don't have the skill set for that yet. Or technology, despite all the marketing, it's not to a high level yet, or we are not optimized for any specific case. Now, all these are valid reasons that slow down the digital transformation. The question
Yeah.
is, which one is the most important?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to put mine out there. And what I think is that it takes time to be proven, because now again, this is just my and all of them are valid, as you
Yeah.
say, but if you're talking in the real world industry situation, no matter what we think, it comes down to money. You know, so while we say transitioning is costly, but we've got to prove the case first. So we've got to say, well, if you put this in place, you're going to improve your efficiencies from A to B, or you're going to reduce costs from X to Y, or whatever it might be. But you've got to prove that case. And that's the difficulty, is getting the opportunity, getting somebody, a company to say, okay, take some money, go off and do that. And again, we had an example where I used to perform a lot of classroom training, and during the year we could get 100 people done. That was all we could do. And we came up with the online learning. I mean, it wasn't a new technology at all, and we had to get someone to sponsor that and prove the case, and we did. And once we did, we that 100 became 100,000. So everybody in the company could see the same thing at the same time, and they got a consistent message. But we had to prove that. And then once we got that, you can move on to the other things. So I think you got to prove the case first. Once you've proven the case, you can then put it in place, and you can see it's still costly, but now there's a return on the investment. And I think that's important. So even if it's costly, you still might be saving 5% or 10%, or improving efficiencies by 5% or 10%, or it makes you a better, more efficient company, better than your competitors, which then means you earn more jobs, more efficiencies, you know, and more technology. So it's kind of knock on all the way.
Okay.
So that's just.
So if I end the polling on this one and share the results, yeah, there is
Yeah, that's true.
difference of yeah, but it is really a difficult question, and all of them
Yeah.
apply. So actually, so we don't know. Okay, and now, which one is the biggest challenge for digital transformation? And there are 5 again challenges, all of them identified. But is it that people don't know a lot about the technologies and what the technologies can achieve, or there isn't the customer demand to become, as we say, to gain a competitive advantage using Industry 4.0, or there is uncertainty about the return of investment, or yeah, limited money, limited human resources, or we don't know where to start. So all these are valid reasons, but which one is the biggest challenge for digital transformation?
Okay. I'm picking one.
Yes, yes.
But I think again it could be One of a few, to be perfectly honest. I think, and again, this is based on our own experience as a company. Um, was the lack of knowledge about the technologies that were available and their opportunities, because there were things that we wanted to do, but actually we didn't even know if we could do them. We didn't know that, for example, your teams were there to be able to provide support on X, Y, and Z. Now that we know that, we've gone on, and obviously, as you know, we're working together and doing some projects, but we didn't know. It's kind of like we didn't know where to start. We knew what we wanted to do, so we could spot the starting point, but we didn't know where to go after that. We knew that there was a benefit. So even though we weren't certain about it, we knew it was there, and the UI UX workshop proved that case. So that was
Yes.
brilliant for that. And that's back to an earlier workshop that was on to highlight the importance of user experience workshops, because that definitely proved it for us. I think regarding B, again, this is just my own perception on it, is that a lack of knowledge about customer demand. Sometimes you've got to bring it to them. So, who would have thought that you'd be, doing Airbnb or Lyft or whatever, all of these apps that are out there, because they're pushed out rather than being pulled by the customer. So sometimes you've got to say, this is what we can do, and you might find it useful. But for us, I think that was our issue. But I think it could be anything for anybody else.
And I agree with you, and I can see it from the other point of view, from the research, innovation, technology point of view, that you can see things, new technologies appear, and a job that used to take 3 weeks, now it can be done in 10 minutes. We have such differences, but where can this be applied? There is a gap from the research perspective. Okay, I have this extra new technology that it's faster, it's more reliable. Where can I apply it? I don't know it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it goes both ways. Okay, and I think, yeah, the audience agrees. I'll share the results again. Yes, yeah, that's the one. Okay, good. So these are the five questions. Any questions, guys, from the audience? Any other topic we should cover, or we haven't?
Alex, there was a question from AJ earlier on.
Sorry, didn't see that. Yeah.
Hi, Derek and Alex. Great presentation. Do you see AR becoming an important factor in the growth of
Oh, yes.
e-learning?
Absolutely. So people talked about, I mean, I've been involved in training for probably the best part of 25 years. And like I said, classroom is the tradition, and we know that, and people still like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you get a great interaction, and you can share and learn a lot just by having a conversation, the water cooler conversation, whatever. But um, all of a sudden, it just flipped over to going from classroom, to virtual reality. And while that is absolutely great, the uptake has probably been a whole lot lower than what people thought. But you can certainly get involved. I think the difficulty, though, is that you've got a headset on, you can't see what you're doing. You feel, you can only put that on for 10, 15 minutes at a time. I think the augmented reality space, though, is much more inviting. So if we take HoloLens, for example, is a great example, and companies like Honda using that, where you have the glasses on, but you can see in it in front of you, and you can see everybody else around you. You can see everything else around you as well, and it's like you're there. So I think augmented reality is going to become an important factor, because, and really, I have to say, I think COVID is a huge part of that. Absolutely. Because we can't do classroom trainings now. You can't go and consult anymore, not for the foreseeable future. So I think using cameras and using something like that, or another piece of technology that allows you to show something and maybe teach at the same time. So the whole idea of the RealWear headgear is just that I can be here, and the person wearing it, for example, we had somebody using it just the other day in Luxembourg. Before that, I was in Saudi Arabia. The next one is going to be in Honduras, and I'm still here, So it just means that if we build the augmented piece on top of that, we can now train superbly well at the same time. And like I said earlier, it has been proven to show that if you get involved with something like that, you get to do it faster and it's more, you retain it better, so therefore it's more efficient.
How much of a problem is the cost, though, Derek? They're expensive,
Yeah, so
relatively.
that's the thing for us actually. But what we've seen is that, again, we were there at the early days of e-learning when we would say, let's talk of maybe a 20-minute module, okay? Would have cost you easily 25,000 euros, to do that. Crazy money, absolutely ridiculous, and then very quickly the cost to entry came way down. So for that now you could probably, a good module, high definition and all of these things, we're probably talking in the region now of between 7 to 10,000 euros, for something really, really good. Obviously you can go way down below, lower than that, depending on what you need. But in terms of comparison of fidelity, you're probably
Yeah,
talking about that.
yeah.
But then when we go to virtual reality, the cost of that was way up there. But now actually it's not so far away from e-learning. So to create a module, you would use less time. So the virtual reality module might only take 10 minutes, but it's much more immersive. So therefore the learning time is less, but you still get the, if not a better experience, but for the same cost. So I think
Yes.
we'll be the same for AR. As people take it on and utilize it, the cost will come down and down, and especially with Apple and all of those putting them into their phones just as a standard, that's going to make things a whole lot easier as well, because the deployment becomes easier now.
Okay. So, as a concluding question, I have: when are we going to see a, s- like a big disruption, and how far away are we? Sorry, is it going to be the digital transformation? Is it going to be a gradual process, or at some point it will take off? And how close are we to that takeoff?
Yeah, honestly, I think there are some things which are revolutionary. I think most things are evolutionary. They take, there's a little bit
Yeah,
and a little bit and a little bit until the iPhone, I suppose, it was revolutionary in
yeah,
that it put four or
yeah.
five things in together. And until we come up with something like that again, and I don't know if that's going to happen or whatever, but what it allows and what it did allow is when you can come up with a technology that allows people to more people than normal to access things. So the fact that pretty much everybody has a mobile phone or a smartphone, it allows you to do so many things. And until you come up with some other revolution like that, then I think it's going to be more evolutionary rather than revolutionary. There may be one or two things that you say, oh, wow, that's absolutely brilliant. But how long, I don't know, maybe it's kind of once in a generation, when you see something revolutionary.
Again, I think personal opinion is the same. It's because we have so many different dimensions. It goes from AI to AR to security to IoT to anything. It's gonna be an evolution. We cannot gonna see something that we're not gonna see an iPhone moment because so many things are involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's,
Yeah.
it depends on which industry you're in then as well. Maybe
Oh
I
yeah.
know for one industry we're working in that what we're doing is, and to an earlier slide that you had, we're connecting machines to one particular database slash cloud, which is going to be revolutionary for them. But for others, they do that every day. So for this particular industry, they're going to say, wow, this is fantastic because it's going to show them data that they can then analyze, and we'll tell them that too. So that's going to be an incredible transformation for their business. Something that's really manual now is going to be completely different. However, for other places, they've been doing this for many, many years, and they need something different that might be revolutionary for them. So it may depend on the industry that you're in also. And just if I make one final comment on the learning side of things, because that's where we came from originally, even in, after all these years, it also depends on the country that you're in. So some countries are much more adoptive of e-learning than other countries. And certainly, even in Ireland, and even with all the multinational companies that are there, the uptake of, shall we call them, digital learning technologies is very, very low. and very, very slow compared to other countries such as the UK, Netherlands, Singapore, Middle East, and the US. You know, some of these countries use digital learning as their normal way of doing things, and learning, like people learn on the way home from work, or well, they would have, on the train, or commuting. They can do it on the mobile phone or whatever, and they're learning as they do it, because they're learning at the point of need, not when they're told to do it. And I think there is a maturity and an education level that also needs to be done, for not just for learning, but for any digital transformation, to say, here's what we can do, here's how you can do it. And that brings it back to the university. So going from from second level to university level to jobs or research.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Derek. Jerry, I suppose. Yeah.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Alex? Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Thanks,
So,
everybody. I
Thanks.
enjoy that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Us
very
too.
good.
And thanks for all the insights. Yeah. Thanks.
So,
No problem at all.
Yeah, I just want to thank Alex and Derek and the contributors in the chat for their questions. And coming up at 4 o'clock is workshop 5.5. It's tough out there, making it despite it all, with Ross Comerford of predictive technologies, dealing with what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in a tough world. The Beyond IoT workshops and the main stage and research stage are still going on, and feel free to join those at any stage. Thank you for attending this workshop at Beyond IoT.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Derek. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.